Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team, and this week, a special guest. Joining me is Ramon.
Hey guys.
And this week we have on Joel.
Hello.
Is this your first time listening to the Win with Dice podcast? This is a podcast all about tabletop RPGs. Calvin and I take a casual personal hobby, so on this podcast we like to talk about the games that we run and the games that we play and the cool, wonderful people we get to experience the hobby with, and we get to interview some cool people who also make and design the games that we like and play and run and have super fun with. So if this is your first time hearing about this tabletop RPG that we're going to talk about, Don, or any other tabletop RPGs out there, hey, go find some friends and go have some fun. And if you are a player at someone's table and you've never GM'd, what are you doing? Go do it. It's really fun, and I'm pretty sure your table will enjoy it.
Indeed. So yes, as Ramon mentioned, we are talking about the Dawn RPG today. The itch.io page for which will be linked below, so you can go check out the game, grab the system, the character sheet. There's a really good guide in there as well for making interesting characters, and I think this is one of those games that you can just have fun just making characters in it, but you should also play it too, because so far it's been a really interesting thing to work with, and I am excited to hop into it. But before we do that, we have to get to the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week.
Yes, the Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week, brought to you by Joel. Thank you, Joel.
Hello, everyone. An hour before your games, be sure to eat, drink, and take your vitamin supplements. I want you to treat this like a soccer meet. I need you high energy. I need you thinking with your brainosphere, alright? And that's my tip, yeah.
Yeah, we had joked about it before the recording, but I think actually eating something before your game is decent advice. Because,
Yeah.
You want to go into your games with actual proper energy. You don't want to be tired.
Oh man, I think especially because of sometimes you're kind of doing stuff right up to the minute. It's like you forget to eat a lot of times as the GM, or maybe even you're a player. But I find myself when I'm GMing, it's like I'm preparing stuff right up until people sit down. So making sure to eat and making sure that you can sustain yourself through the session or whatever. It's a good call to do that for sure.
Yeah, don't fall into the bad habit of being the GM who doesn't eat like everybody's snacking during the game and you're just sitting there not eating anything. You don't realize you didn't eat all day until it's over. Don't do that.
It's gonna hurt you. It's gonna be bad.
It is.
Yeah. You can hurt your players too. You're gonna be like, forget you, and just kill them. I'm angry.
Yeah, make bad decisions on purpose.
Make bad decisions on purpose. All right, man. But yeah, that's a good one. No, honestly, I think too, if you're acting all the voices and you're a little bit of a showman as a GM, definitely you can exhaust yourself kind of going through all the characters and running through everything. So yeah, make sure that you do eat and drink and stuff like that before. Think about it as like a workout. Go take your pre-workouts and supplements and creatine or whatever you do. I don't know. I don't know what people do for workouts, but yeah, treat it like you're gonna be doing something intense.
All right. Well, let's hop into the episode proper and talk about the Dawn RPG. First off, Joel, if you want to introduce yourself for people who somehow might not know about you. I feel like a lot of people who listen to this show are already aware of your games, though.
Yeah, I feel like you covered a lot in the Lancer space and in the Tom Blue space, and I definitely, that's where I got my start. So I think there's quite a bit of overlap in that Venn diagram. But yeah, I'm Joel, or Joel Happyhil, or Joel Happyhil, but a lot of people just call me Joel and seem to recognize it, which is a pride point for me. I'm an independent game designer. I've been working on games for, I think I'm just hitting on 3 years now, and yeah, I started doing this shit while I was in high school. Keeping at it, the games are getting better and better, and I'm hoping you're enjoying them more and more.
I did not know you got started back in high school, actually. Now I'm curious, what were you making your own systems back then? Were you expanding on existing games? What was high school Joel up to?
I'm pretty young for this space. I feel like a lot of game designers are hitting 50 and they're getting in there. But when I was in high school, Roll20 was really popular. Or not Roll20. Matt Mercer show, the actual play that he does. I forget what it's called. Critical Role. Critical Role is really popular.
Yeah.
So I was able to like recruit a few of my buddies to play D&D since it's something I was interested in for a very long time. Sort of on the fringes. I haven't really played it until then, and so I like GM'd a homebrew game for me and my buddies, and we like worked on our own setting and stuff, and we put a lot of work into it. And eventually, I was like, well, my friends want to do this cool idea, but it doesn't work in D&D, so I guess I'll write up like a new like class or race for them or something, because I like games. I like designing games. And eventually that just mutated into me doing an original system, which was Advent Dawn, which is the thing that Dawn is sort of a spiritual successor to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like that kind of applies to a lot of people. You know, they have this idea, it doesn't work in this game, but you want to expand on it, and eventually, you know, you end up making this really cool project.
Exactly.
So yeah, let's talk about the Dawn RPG. I guess it's sort of described as a shonen-inspired tabletop RPG.
Strongly.
So what would be the elevator pitch for this game?
I would say, to give you one that I don't have written down anymore, just something off the top of the brain, I think Dawn is a very indulgent, like, high-action shonen game. It's inspired by, of course, like, shonen anime and manga, but also just everything I really loved years ago, like in high school and stuff. Inspired by the shonen, like, Fairy Tail and, like, Black Clover that I watched more recently, but also, like, Korean MMOs, like Elsword and, like, Maple Story, and those sort of, like, very explosive, over-the-top, flashy action games, and sort of bring that all together into this very, like, sort of indulgent, maybe a bit edgy if you don't like me, that's what you describe it as, but definitely a very, I would say inspired and hopeful game, something that I hope like makes you feel good while you're playing your character.
Yeah, more like when you mentioned Black Clover and Fairy Tail, I was like, oh, that's what the vibe is. Very explosive, very much like, this is my cool attack, I'm gonna beat you up and we're gonna be friends afterwards.
Exactly.
Right, like with enough fists, I'll make you into my best friend kind of vibe. Yeah, and like power fantasy for sure, right? Like
Definitely.
I think that the game is, at least towards the player's ends, there's lots of customization and lots of options and lots of ways to make the cool exploding sounds, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, because this is a specific thing I did want to get into with character creation. I wanted to talk about that, but I feel like we should set like a base of how the game functions or how it works.
Yeah.
Because the way the game is made, you have your unstructured play, like your improv, RP, that sort of thing, and then you have your structured combat where you get into a grid space, a 7x7 grid space, which I think was an interesting decision. I'm kind of curious why you did that, actually. But we can circle back to that.
Of course.
Yeah, so I guess just the basis of how does the game actually work for people who, again, might not have played it before or haven't checked it out yet.
So the basic stuff that applies to all of Dawn, whether you're in combat or not, is you've got 4 stats: body, talent, mind, spirit, and they sort of dictate the rest of your character. Whenever you go into a conflict or need to roll something, you're going to roll a number of d6 based on one of those stats, and then you add a bunch of modifiers based on what you're doing, and you want to get as many high numbers as possible. So if you're rolling 5 dice, you're going to count how many are 4 or higher. Those are hits, and you need a certain amount of hits to be successful. So everything kind of goes off of those base systems. In combat, it's like, oh, roll for hits since that's how much damage you do. In the RP stuff, it's like, oh, you're trying to do this challenge, I'm going to set it to be you need X hits to do the thing. And it's all kind of, it's essentially all built around how do I get as many modifiers on this thing as possible to do my biggest multi-hit thing, and go off of that. And just in the different modes of play, the way you get those modifiers and the rewards you get are different.
Mm-hmm. So basically, it's just build a big dice pool to cash out onto whatever you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
So when you start making your character, then, just because it's just that's just the thing that's in my head right now. What I really liked in the character creation system is that you can create your own abilities. Like, you have your basics, you have your skills, things that you put your numbers into. But I really liked the custom ability system that is essentially just a combination of verbs and nouns and a condition, and you can make your own custom abilities with that. I really like systems like that are very flexible. I kind of wanted to touch on it briefly. If you wanted to go into that as well or just explain that, although I feel like I kind of gave a quick summary of it.
Yeah. So that's the idea. The ability system is every character in the game has like a special power. Like, again, think back to like the shonen settings and stuff. You're like, oh, I'm the guy who makes fire, or I'm the guy who like can move things with my brain. And to make that ability for a character, you need to complete the phrase, I can X, Y, when I Z. X being a like verb, which is like, what are you doing? Do you move? Do you create? Do you duplicate? And then Y being the thing that you're doing it to. So I can move people. I can like teleport you or whatever. Like I can create fire. I do the fire magic. And Z being a all-encompassing condition that is the trigger for when you can do this. Most of the time, it's like a range, like, oh, it's only when you touch someone, so you can't just like see someone a billion miles away and set them on fire. That's not what you do. You're the burning fist guy or whatever. But sometimes it's something more interesting, like, oh, you need to, like, win in, like, a specific game. Like, you need to fucking do rock, paper, scissors with someone, and if you win, you take their ability. That's a totally, like, valid thing you can do with that combination of words. Or, like, things like, are you sweating?
Yeah, some dumb Hunter x Hunter Nen nonsense, where it's like...
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Like when I have, exactly 3 fingers... I blow up the world or something. Like it's like
oh yeah, very Hunter x Hunter, very JoJo that way. Like weird conditions that you can go crazy with, but there's also the more regular combinations and all that. Why that's stuff you can do.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool actually. There's, I guess, because the sheer amount of combinations you can get with what you've laid out here is a lot. So I mean, people can definitely fit it and wiggle it away to kind of basically be whatever they want, right? Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I keep running on the duplicate thing. I can duplicate people when I win a game. I think that's pretty funny.
I love duplicate. It's very good.
Yeah, that one's so awesome. But yeah, these are really fun. I would say this whole system just kind of screams fun, and I'm not sure if there's too many dark tones in here, but it just kind of feels like, again, that shonen action funness of like, you're kind of a brash young dude trying to save the world from some bad guy, right?
I've had to think a lot about the stakes, and it's very much like, it's not a grim or like really dark game very much. There's obviously stakes, like you're saving the world because the world's in danger. That's a stake, bad things might happen, but it's like your characters don't even like die without you letting them. It's kind of like lighthearted, and you're expected to make it out in the end, like on the other side. This isn't a game where I challenge the idea of your character. This is a game where you're supposed to like make your little blorbo and have fun, like explore what they do, explore like how you can show their personality in like the combat or in like in the field, do whatever you want to do.
We had talked to Eld about this a bit ago, just talking about explaining what this game system does and doesn't do, as well as having the list of inspirations, the list of assumptions, just making it clear what the intent of this game is and what sort of stories you're likely to create with this system. Yeah, I think that can be important for people getting into a new game, just to understand like, here's what you're going to end up with this system, so you're not like fighting against it to try to create something that might not work, but instead, if you have that same inspiration, you can work with it to create that story.
Yeah, I found those, especially before I wrote that in, I felt that was especially an issue because it was like an anime game in a lot of what it talks about, because like it's such a wide... I feel like anime is a sort of thing that a lot of people try to say is a genre when it really isn't. And so people would see this being like, oh, it's like a manga game. Oh, I can make this with Dawn, when they really couldn't. There's a lot of weird, incompatible things that people would try to do with it and would leave disappointed. So I really wanted to set out those expectations in the first few pages and make sure everyone knows exactly what I'm looking at. Because it's got a pretty specific vibe, even if it's not the most dictated game out there.
And is that something that just came up through playtesting, basically? Because, I know playtesting is usually like you focus on mechanics and stuff, but it also can set the tone for a game if there's something you need to communicate more clearly.
A bit. Some of it was definitely like when the game was first, just in its inception, I feel like even I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. It covers a lot of ground. But as I played with people and did playtesting, and as I read other games where I was like, I don't think I could do this, I was able to more solidly make that idea in my mind. Like you were talking about Eld, I read, I think, Soar while this was in development. We were kind of both making our games at the same time, and I think we bit off a lot of what each other was doing with our own work. And there was definitely a certain level of oh, Eld's doing something here that Dawn can't do, and that's interesting to me. I like seeing when especially mutuals of mine and people who I know and have talked to about their work, what do we do differently? What is different about us as designers and as creatives that let us make this?
Yeah, because I know that there's a really specific game mechanic, I guess, that always lets the player chooses their own destiny no matter how anything's going, which I think is so up the alley of forget about whatever we're doing before. This is the final blow, right? It didn't matter everything up beforehand, right? Which is super duper on brand, especially for freaking Black Clover. Every time that dude gets his ass handed to him, it's oh, here's 5 more swords or whatever. You're
I keep disappointing people because people name references for oh, this dual wielding move you made, it's just this other thing that you're clearly inspired by. It's nope, it's all the same. It's all the magic animes, it's all Black Clover, it's all Fairy Tail, it's all about them spellcasters doing bullshit. And it's no matter what you think.
Quote unquote wizards, get out of here. Yeah, for sure, because those cool anime tropes. I mean, I think people forget that everything draws from everything else, so there's just kind of tropes and things that people are pulling from. They don't even know why. I guess I would say, you said that anime isn't a genre, but I feel it's not a genre, but it's definitely pulling from not Western mythology, and not mythology in terms of actual history and stuff like that, but history, religious stuff, societal stuff.
Yeah.
Their archetypes are different from our archetypes. So if you were a Japanese person, anime is this is just seeing cowboys. It doesn't matter, right? But for a North American audience, it would just be oh, cowboys, I know what cowboys are, right? So it's because it's that difference of the shared history and society stuff. That's what people are this is a genre.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's closer than some other mediums. I think if you took the most different anime, they'd still be closer to each other than if you took the 2 most different paintings. There's a lot of shared ground there, a lot of people retreading, especially because it's a more recent genre of or not genre, I did it to myself, a more recent medium of work. Yeah, for sure. And the people too who are making it, they are probably on only a few generations of people actually getting into the business and becoming those creative directors and that kind of stuff, right, to really kind of shaping it. So I feel anime now is weirder than it was before, and it will keep getting weirder as that medium and as that frankly, at least more people who aren't Japanese gets involved with it as well, right? The more people in the industry will kind of make it so it's more global, I guess, bringing their influence into it as well. And I don't know, I think Don's also kind of a part of that stuff too, because capturing vibes in TTRPGs is the sauce. So, yeah. All right, Kevin, what we're doing next. We went on a bit of a tangent.
No, I
didn't want to. My bad.
I didn't want to interrupt because I thought that was an interesting conversation. No, there's just definitely something to be said for, generation of people who are inspired by perhaps the same things, and then that sort of spreading out and diversifying as time goes on. I just thought it was an interesting point. I didn't want to interrupt you guys. No, I was just also looking at other mechanical stuff here that I thought was cool, the bonds as well. I thought was interesting. I don't know, I'm torn between just asking you about every single individual rule of the game. Because I'm also is that what people want to hear? But it's also what I want to do, so.
Yeah, do it. Why not?
Ask away. I'll have a lot to say on any of them, I can promise that.
Well, actually, we could talk about the outlooks, because when I was reading through this, that was one of the things that sort of inspired a bunch of different character ideas for me. That's why I was saying I think just making a character with this book could be fun on its own. So I was kind of wondering with that, this seems like something that you would have started with maybe a whole lot of these and had to try to whittle it down to these specific ones. So I was kind of curious about the process of the outlooks. And also maybe if you want to explain for people how they work, because they do set like a base of part of your character creation.
Sure, yeah. Outlooks are a sort of... They take a lot from Power Apocalypse or like Blazing the Dark style playbooks, where they're a narrative sort of archetype for your character that comes with a set of features that you get to unlock as you go through the game. And they sort of define like the main way your character acts, and it like rewards you for playing into that archetype, right? So the Rebel, which is the first archetype, or I don't call them archetypes. The first outlook in the book, Rebel, is that sort of classic, like, loudmouth, angry, very, like, protagonisty character that's going against some, like, overarching system in your world. And it rewards you for, like, going out alone and, like, taking on the brunt of an attack for your ally and being, like, brash and out there. And all of its different features incentivize that, as well as giving you a bunch of, like, just sort of lore and, like, flavor-only details that you get to, like, build into your backstory and, like, add to a part of your character. You said before that I might have had, like, a long list and, like, had to work them down, because there's a lot that you can do with that, I think, if you're going off of, like, the inspirations I'm going off of. But honestly, it's hard to think of them. I'm definitely a specialist in combat mechanics and bringing like more physical, like visceral action to life. I like to imagine like how I can express exactly how like a sword slice would go. But outlooks, they are difficult because you have to make it like a ton of these rewarding features and like the stuff that lets you expand on the concept of your character. And I wish I had 2 more, because right now there's 8 and it's not a good number. There should be 10. But I think what is there covers ground very well and like sort of doesn't restrict you too much where I need more, and also gives you enough of a grounding that you can inspire your character.
Yeah, the more I read this in context, I cannot stop imagining anime or video game characters that I'm like, this is just them. Right? Like
yeah.
Like I play a lot of Guilty Gear, so I was like the Rebel and the Loyal. I was like, is that Soul Bad Guy and Kai Kisk I'm looking at right now? Like
I have them. That's another thing I love about them. Is all of the outlooks are paired. It is 4 pairs of 2 outlooks. So the Rebel and the Loyal on the same page are the outlooks of authority. Are you a person who is working under authority, or a person who's fighting against it? The page below that has 2, which are the outlooks of dependence. Do you depend on other people, or have you been removed from someone, like, depending on you? They are each sort of foils to each other, and I love how that works out in-game, because Rebel Loyal is that classic, like, red and blue rival. If you got, like, Virgil Dante, you've got Kai and fucking Soul, you've got Ryuken, and it really does let you sort of live out that character archetype very well, especially since I think they both have something around using rivals mechanically to connect to each other. It's very good.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool too. If you have players at the table, right? If they do end up choosing characters that are similar, like on the same outlook, I guess, duality, that would be like just setting up for tons of fun. I would argue that you should just do that, I guess. Why not? That sounds like so good. Like when, you know, the red character and the hothead red character and the cool, like, you know, chill blue character team up to do something cool and awesome is always the best. Yeah. Did
you find these sort of things like combining well in playtesting? Like, were people naturally gravitating towards mixing the Rebel and the Loyal, or this other like sort of pairs?
I haven't been able to see it very much until recently, because a lot of playtesting, especially in the beginning, was all combat. It was like, we get into a combat scene, we see what works, what doesn't, because there's so many things that go wrong with this system in combat, because you just have so many little bits that you get to combine. So someone's always finding something weird, but we're like a few years into development now, and I feel like now combat is in a place where I don't need to worry about it, and that means I've been able to test out the like sort of roleplay stuff a lot more in these outlooks. And yeah, I've really been loving how they're turning out. I'm setting up a game with some of my friends right now for Dawn, and the way that the outlooks sort of foil against each other really does like bring characters together in a natural way. I feel it's especially fun, especially if you have something in your outlook that lets you interact with bonds more.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's kind of splitting my design brain out here because I just kind of thought about it. But maybe instead of like adding another 2 for 10, maybe what you can do is like, I don't know if you're going to add into this update or maybe another one. Maybe not like a part 2, but maybe just like a supplement. You can make more cross references in between. So like, for instance, maybe something like, what if like someone chose a rebel and they were working like on the same party or something like that, and they have more interaction with like the confident or something like that, because, you know, someone's really loud and someone who doesn't like authority. That might be kind of fun to kind of pair and get something going between that interaction. Right.
I'm storming up a supplement right now, and yeah, I definitely want to add in some bonds, or not bonds, some boon stuff to add to the outlooks a bit more and see what more I can put in there. It's something I really want to be able to give people more options for, because I think they're pretty successful right now, even if there could always be more.
Oh yeah, of course, man. Like, these names also are really good. Like, the hardest part about doing all of this is finding good names for stuff. Like these are really good. I was like,
thank you.
I don't even know what they are. I just read the name and I was like, I want that. That gets me excited to read more, right? Like, that's awesome. I put a lot of time and thought into making sure names work, and I get very picky about them. There's some things that I still think I think there's a bit of brain poison telling me that nothing will ever be good enough, but some of them are definitely still like, ooh, I could use like one different word here and make it a little more evocative. But people are always telling me how they like it, so clearly I've done something right. Yeah, you definitely have, man, for sure. Calvin, you're like the dude who keeps us in track. So, like,
well,
I'm going wherever you tell us. I'm going wherever you tell us.
Well, since we are talking about the outlooks, we could also talk about, I guess, their sort of counterparts when it comes to combat in the techniques.
Yes.
Because that's where you can sort of diversify your character a bit more when it comes to combat as well.
Yeah, in both combat and non-combat, your character is kind of like a list of abilities that don't really need to be part of the same group. Like I said outlooks are like your archetype, but you can combine outlooks and you can get moves from other outlooks and you can like put them on your sheet even if you started with a different one. And the game is really all about combining things, and techniques are even more like that. At character creation, you can have like 3 different classes of techniques and combine them all together. They're very strongly inspired by Lancer's talents, because they're all come in multiple levels. They get to progress and come from these different... they're all passive modifiers to your kit that sort of transforms how your stuff works. Mm-hmm. Techniques, instead of having outlooks, they are grouped in the 6 archetypes. I think it's 6. There is the Powerhouse, which is the sort of big, chunky, like bruiser characters. The Vagabond, which is the fast, sort of assassin types. The Bulwark, which is the sort of defensive, tanky, sort of aggro takers. The Altruist, which is the supportive and amplifying characters. The Disruptor, which is all about making the enemies worse and like moving people around, doing that. And the Ruiner, which is all about having one big bursty final attack and doing big burst damage. And each of these have like 17 to 20 something different techniques that all have 3 levels. It comes around to like 120 or something different techniques that you get to mix around and put into your character.
Yeah, this is the part where I was glad you had like some suggestions and lists and stuff, because I did deviate a bit when I was making a character, just because I really... God, what was it? I saw Egomaniac under the list, and I thought it was an interesting like side mechanic. But yeah, no, I was glad you had those lists of ideas, because I was like, these are cool, but there's a lot of them.
Oh yeah, that is, I think, one of my favorite inclusions, especially for like accessibility, because obviously going through 120 techniques and making exactly what you want is not going to work out if you aren't like a fan of the game already. If you're trying to get into it, it sucks. Which is why I put those recipes in that sort of like guide you through a sort of class, like an archetype for a character. And I'm really glad of how they came out. Like, they sort of fit exactly what I think a lot of them came from playtesting. Like, I saw like 3 people in a row who've never spoken to each other and have played the game for the first time all go for a magical element, spell sword, and martial artist, so they could be the punch guy and then they blow up character, which is like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I get why people like that, so I put that as a recipe. There's a bunch of people who wanted to do like full support stuff, so I put that as a recipe, and it all sort of guides you through to the page numbers and everything and tells you why you want to take the abilities. I think it's a very smooth way to get through character creation.
Yeah, and it helps to like modify too. Like, let's say you're like kind of looking at the recipe and you're like, well, I want to switch out one of these parts, and then that's my build, or that's my character that I want to do. Yeah, right. It gives you a real good place to jumping off point.
Yeah, that's like exactly what I had done when I was doing this. I do also like that it's sorted by like complexity, just again, so when you are going through this for the first time, you know what you're getting into.
Yes, some of them I feel like sometimes with these techniques, like the book takes over, and I end up writing a full page of mechanics for one technique, and those I think need to be cordoned off. I don't think new players need to see the half page of technique that is being a character with 3 different weapons and you switch between them like Dante, and it's like, okay, let's not worry about that. That's something that I'm gonna show you is like overly complicated on purpose, and you don't need to look at it yet.
but someone, I guess, with more experience with the game then might feel a little more comfortable with it.
Oh yeah, there's a few members on my Discord who are like have like a lot of expertise in the system. Like, people have been following it through for like a year or so, and they always have like the craziest shit, and they're always like, yeah, put in more complicated stuff, yeah, more, and it's
give me the 4 stars. Yeah.
give me a 4-star complexity technique, exactly.
Yeah, let me flip coins and run to the grocery store, and then I'll get 5 pluses or something. Let me do some dumb shit like that. Only when it's Sunday. Like,
exactly.
I know lots of people who love to do stuff like that. So, yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I also visually, too, I really like the way that the book is laid out, and how each technique, even if I'm just kind of scrolling through and just looking at the names, I can decide, like, oh, here's the things that I need, like which ability it is, what, like, I guess aspect with the game it's modifying, and like what the general vibe is, right? Before you even start reading anything. That's always really good.
Yeah. Speaking of visuals, actually, I would feel remiss if we did not touch on the art for the game.
Yes, I love how it's turned out. I'm glad that I stuck to a very specific style early. It's all like monochrome art in a similar anime cartoony art style, and the solid shading. I'm really proud of the work of all the artists did on here. It is a very wide roster of different artists who I've commissioned. I tried to get like different ones every time so that I didn't have to worry about, like, for example, in like this isn't obviously to put down, this is gonna sound like a tangent, but it's gonna come back to it.
No, tangent away.
In a lot of Tom's books, I love Tom Bloom's books because Tom Bloom is a good designer, he's a fun writer, and he is amazing at like his art. He's an amazing artist, and that's something I always wish I could do. I wish I could do my own art for these books. I feel like it communicates so much about like his personality, and it like gives a lot to the game. But it also means that when there was a different artist in a Lancer book, I got confused, and it was a bit wacky. And I was immediately anxious that would happen if I used the same artist too much. So I try to make it so that like every page you have a different artist, and it sort of all mixes together into like this similar style that clearly is directed, but it's not the same person every time.
Yeah, I understand that. I do like when it all of a sudden isn't Tom Bloom's art, and then you're like, wait, what? It's a little bit of like, it takes you out of the vibe a little bit, right? Because
a bit of whiplash. It's not even bad art. It's great art
whiplash.
Always, but it's like it's just
course,
different,
yeah.
and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that like other artists were in this.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, I think that there's like a tone, especially if like it's used in some sort of like maybe like side pieces of artwork, like nothing that isn't like a double page or a title page or whatever for like a chapter. Right, where it's like, this is different, when it's just like all of a sudden there's just different artists, and then you're like, wait, what? That kind of messes with you visually. It isn't bad, but it is just kind of like the vibe is a little bit off. But yeah, I think because you stuck to the monochromatic black and white full shaded art style, like I actually, to be fair, I didn't notice too hard that there were so many different artists working on this. Like everything seems cohesive. I think that's the word I'm looking for. The cohesion is high.
It's good to hear, because it's definitely the goal.
Yeah, like there's definitely different styles to it, but they all seem like they would fit in like they all fit within the book itself.
Yeah, or at least I would say that like because everything looks anime, it feels like anime. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like I know the listeners know what I mean, right? Like, it's not like all of a sudden it's like a watercolored painting out of nowhere, and then you're like, oh, that's different, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's definitely something that's like. I know a lot of people, because like I did a lot of research into other like anime-inspired games for this, and I know a lot of people like reference Exalted as like a good one, and it seems mechanically good, but I can't get over that Exalted has like the Wizards of the Coast like sort of hyper-realism painterly style. Like that's so strange to me. For like, I don't know if it was their intent, obviously, but it makes the recommendation from other people a bit like harder to follow, because like it doesn't look like it's embodying the genre at all, or the medium. Where like other, especially like Japanese RPGs like Tenor Bansho or Sword World, like obviously have that sort of style and fit it, which I think is always interesting.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it looks, at least from some of those pictures, it feels like they were going for like the old video game covers, where it's like clearly like whatever's on the box isn't what you're getting, right? But they tried really hard. You know what I mean? Like. It feels like that. Like it's still epic, but it's definitely not what you're gonna play for some reason. Like it has that vibe.
It's also a much older game.
Yeah.
Hey there, folks. Calvin from The Edit here. Once again, we're splitting this episode into 2 parts, so instead of one big chunky episode, you get a couple of smaller, more bite-sized ones. Although I use the term bite-size a little loosely. So we covered a whole lot of the game this week. Next week, we're going to get into some of the more GM-facing stuff, some more details into the Dawn RPG. Of course, if you want to check it out yourself, there's a link down below where you can check out the Dawn RPG, as well as Joel Happyhil's other games. There'll be a link to the Discord as well, where you can talk about those games and hop onto any other sessions or playtests. Also below, you can find a link to Joel's Patreon, so definitely check that out and help support this awesome game. As for things on our end, if you're watching on YouTube, please check out the links below to a whole bunch of Lancer writers and creators, a bunch of people we've talked to before and had on the show. They've done some awesome work, so if you're into the Lancer Mech RPG, definitely check them out. There's also links to other games like the Soar RPG there as well, so check out that game. It's got some similar vibes, and I think if you're into one, you might be into the other. In addition, I want to shout out some other channels, such as the Vault Companions channel, which recently started a Fallout campaign. I also want to shout out Masks and Mayhem. If you're into Mutants and Masterminds, definitely check that channel out, as well as their podcast. And of course, I got to shout out the Untold Stories project, where I'm at a couple of times a week. We're getting close to finishing the Freedom League Dark stories, so definitely come by for that. I feel like it's going to be pretty emotional. As well, Ramon is working on a couple of games. On our website, you can find Versus, a fighting game-inspired tabletop RPG. There's a current draft on there that you can go ahead and check out, try making some characters, give it a playthrough with some NPCs, and just let us know what you think, either through the website or through other ways to contact us. And as well, Mechanized Body, which is a card-based mech tabletop RPG that Ramon and Trey have been working on. We did a couple episodes recently talking about that game, so go ahead and check those out, check out the game. It'll also be linked below. We've got some other cool stuff hopefully coming down the pipeline, and hopefully getting some streams back online, so definitely stick around if you want to see more stuff from us. And of course, if there's any other games or systems or anything else you want us to check out, just leave a comment either on YouTube, Spotify, or through our website, or wherever else you can find us, such as on social media like Blue Sky, and just let us know what you want us to look at. That's it for now, so come back next week for part 2 of this interview, and just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next time.